Okay, Omega, you can do this.
Oh, man. G'day guys and welcome back to Raging Rhino. Alright, I just finished watching episode 3 of The Bad Batch. This episode is just another filler episode. It's just sort of telling the story a little bit moving forward. You can see that they're just setting it up. They're designing all of this stuff to set it up for this ultimate battle at the end that may happen. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward, because the subplot in this episode was just there for the purposes of showing Omega doing some really cool things on her own. So that's really my initial thoughts on the whole thing. Going forward, there's going to be a few spoilers, so spoilers ahead. So it all starts off and the guys have pretty much left Saleucami and they're traveling, trying to repair their ship because it got attacked as they were leaving and it's in a pretty bad shape. Now, throughout this, of course, there's this little... this whole thing is just trying to tell a story. It's like I said last week in my last review. It's dads in space. It's these guys learning how to adapt to having a child around. That's really all this comes down to. And believe it or not, these guys are the actual subplot in this episode. The main plot actually goes back to Crosshair, and we'll get to that. So basically, they're trying to work out their rations, and they're giving Omega her rations. Wrecker gets his, and he scoffs his. And then he's like, I'm still hungry, and Hunter's like, no more. And Omega's like, you can have mine. And Wrecker goes to take it, and Hunter pushes him back and goes, we don't even have a place for her to sleep. Are you going to take her food too? And like, there was nothing wrong with the scene in context, but the whole premise of this child being in the series, male or female for that matter, but it's the fact that it's a female clone of Jango Fett that really just does my head in. But anyway, they're escaping. The ship breaks while they're in hyperspace, and they come out of hyperspace and they end up crashing on this moon. While they're on this moon, they've got to obviously repair the ship, but they've got to use this power cell that they've got to plug in outside the ship. And there's this creature out there that feeds on power, like power cells and things like that. So it snatches it and runs off with it, and that's pretty much their mission throughout this whole episode. And Omega wants to come. Hunter's like, no. And then she's like, well, how can I help? I'm a part of the team, aren't I? And he lets her, stay close to her and stay involved in hunting down this animal they have no idea about. So we'll get more into that a bit more later in regards to the story side of things and what actually happens there. But basically, the main story is Crosshair in this entire episode. So they've been experimenting more on him and basically trying to make him a better soldier in regards to just following orders and doing what needs to be done. Now, throughout this episode, Tarkin is met with a proposition from another commander or officer that voluntary recruits would make a much bigger difference in regards to the reach of the Empire and what it would be like having clones and just recruits working together. So that's where I think that the EU guys aren't really going to like this too much, because I don't exactly know how it plays out in the EU, but they're clearly playing around with that, and I don't know how much it matches up. So Tarkin's wanting to see who's better, who's the better soldier. Is it the clones, or is it these recruits? So this guy here, he brings in his guys, his recruits, and he wants to put them to the test sort of thing, or Tarkin actually wants to put them to the test. So he sends them out to go and kill the village of people that the Bad Batch was sent to kill in the previous episode, I think it was. Oh no, in episode 1, the longer episode. The one where Sol Guerrera's at. So basically Tarkin sends these guys, these voluntary troops, and Crosshair as their leader to go and kill all of these troops. or not the troops, sorry, the camp that they were supposed to destroy in episode 1. And basically throughout all of that, they end up destroying the camp, but Sol Guerrera wasn't there. Now, in this moment here that you're seeing on screen, there's this bit where Crosshair goes to kill these innocent people that were just trying to get transport off-world. And the recruit is just trying to disagree and saying, we weren't signed up to, just kill the innocent. And Crosshair basically executes him and then makes these other recruits execute these innocent people. And they come back. Tarkin's happy that the result came out the way it did. A bit unfortunate that Sol Guerrera wasn't there. But they see promise in it. And then he promotes the guy that suggested these recruits to Admiral or something like that. I can't remember exactly. This episode, honestly, it made me laugh because coming up is one of the funniest parts of this entire thing. And the entire premise of this show is all about Omega. It's all going to come down to Omega is just brilliant. So that's pretty much where that sort of ends. That's the main story, or that's the main plot of this episode. Now, this is where I say that they've forced this storyline, this plot, in for the sake of showing Omega being really good. They could have done the entire episode based around Crosshair, and they could have done a full half an hour length episode of just Crosshair and his story. They could have done that. And they could have dragged out that story a little bit more. He could have tracked Sol Guerrera a little bit further and taken out more of their troops. They could have actually done a little bit more with that. But they bring this in. So basically, these guys have crashed on a moon. They've come out of hyperspace. And by the way, they get this one part and their ship is completely fixed at the end of it. But anyway, they track this animal. This animal ends up knocking out Hunter because he takes the mask off his face. And in that moment, he sort of gets knocked out and passed out. Omega comes running over and puts his mask back on his face. This is what I laughed at. Okay, so you can see Hunter. He's had the mask knocked off his face. The thing's getting away.
Hunter, wake up! Wake up! Echo, Riker, Tig, come in. We need help. Okay, Omega, you can do this.
Oh, man. And you know what? You know what the funniest part is? She actually does it. And how she does it, get this. So again, this creature is a creature that feeds on energy. She's got the torch, right? The creature's drained all the energy out of the part that it's taken from them that they're trying to retrieve. While she's in the cave, she's shining the torch like this, and the creature wants the torch. So she throws the torch, the creature eats the torch and starts getting all the electricity or all the energy out of the torch, and she goes and picks up the part and comes back out of the tunnel. Oh man, I can't even begin to explain this to you. It's just hilarious. It was so funny. And then that's pretty much where this episode ends. That one part that she picks up fixes their ship from a crash landing, and then they're okay to fly. It literally, like, they literally put this episode in. They were in hyperspace and they were traveling somewhere. I don't know where they were going. and then the ship broke and went out of hyperspace and crash landed. Now, if they had have just left the ship going through hyperspace, they wouldn't have had to show any of that. Maybe they cut to it a little bit to give us some Family Ties sort of feel on the ship with the dads and the kid, right? But that's all they had to really do. They didn't have to go into this massive other plot and this massive other story. And then you've got the Crosshair storyline. They could have, the main story in that, it's called the Bad Batch. He's one of the Bad Batch. And he's clearly going to be sent to go after them with his new recruit clones. These new recruits, they are clearly not clones. So I really don't know where this goes. Wrecker got hit in the head during the crash landing. And I think like he was rubbing his head for a long time. It may have triggered his chip. And at the beginning of the episode, Tech was working on something to see if the inhibited chips were doing anything to them. So he was like inventing this thing, and then the chip decided to just break. Like they're setting up a couple of other little storylines or something that are going to happen. But again, this just isn't Star Wars. This is babysitters in space, dads that are fish out of water, and it was actually a hilarious episode to watch. Really fucking funny. I sat there and I actually laughed because like when she picks up that gun and she gets up, oh man, it made me laugh. Anyway, if you watched it, please let me know what you think in the comments below. Even if you didn't watch it, and based on my description, I know there's a lot of people out there that don't like Disney Star Wars that actually watch my channel, which makes sense. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Or you guys, let me know how this played out in regards to what happens after Order 66 with the clones in the EU. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you next week for episode 4. I really don't want to watch it. Later, guys.